The Doom of Valaria was an inside job. This theory is not new in the fandom, but I think what is new is that we have been blaming the wrong culprit for the act. Hello, and welcome back to my channel, Major Targaryen Theories. I'm your host, Major Targaryen. If you like to dig into George R.R. Martin's garden to find hidden treasures, please like and subscribe for more content. So, as mentioned earlier, the Doom was an inside job. However, I believe many popular culprits were all just cat's paws being used and manipulated by a more ambitious group of plotters. These plotters have thus far gone unmentioned in the fandom, but my goal is to expose the true mastermind behind the Doom of Valaria. Many have speculated on who orchestrated the Doom of Valaria. Some have talked about the faceless men killing off the folks whose job it was to keep the 14 flames going. Some speak of Lannister gold and plots from Old Town. Some even going as far as suggesting it was House Targaryen themselves who came up with this plot. But looking at the clues, there is a character or family that may have had a major role in the Doom, but has gone unnoticed for all these centuries. What if I were to tell you that George R.R. Martin has given us the clue and has been teasing us for years, with clothes planted in the garden, awaiting the grand reveal? If you read the book Fire and Blood, the answer is sprinkled within the story, but it may take some digging through the words to discover it. In looking at the Doom of Valaria, one must ask oneself, qui bonum, Latin for who benefits the most. Who benefited the most from the Doom? You look at the alleged plotters, they did not get much help from the Doom. Let us examine all the presented theories and plotters and see what they gain from the Doom. Some say that the Old Town Maesters had a conspiracy to take out Old Valaria. However, they had centuries to go after Old Valaria. They never did, so why would they wait until a faction of that world moved closer to them to attack the main base of that world? Some say it was because of this move that Old Town acted, but why not finish the job and go after the last ember of light of magic that now existed in House Targaryen? After the Doom, why not just go to Dragonstone and finish the job? If killing off 40 dragon-riding families with a few hundred dragons was perfectly executed, why not knock off 5 more dragon riders and rid the world of them all in one move? Some say House Targaryen did it because their standing in Valaria was low. Still, they had been low for a long time. No evidence shows that they were plotting on some grand scheme to destroy their country of origin, and they lost more than they gained. Some talk of a dream had by Daenerys. Perhaps that could be the case, but upon the actual page of signs and portents, it does not seem as if it's just her dream alone that was the sole catalyst for what happened next in the timeline of Planetos. And House Targaryen had been a lowly house for a long time before the Doom. Why wait until now to pull this off? Also, the house in the first 100 years took a severe loss, going from 5 dragons to 3, and 2 of those 3 were born on Dragonstone. So that means 80% of the 5 they came over with died. So, how would that be considered having benefited from the Doom? They were left with only 2 other families of Valerian blood to intermarry with besides themselves, and neither of these families had any proven dragon-riding blood. Along with losing 80% of the dragons they came to the island with, and only regaining half of that strength back, is not a benefit in my eyes. Even the previously mentioned idea of the Dragon Lord, who wanted Westeros, seems false, since they sat for 12 years before the Doom, and 100 years after the Doom. Before the conquest, they were doing nothing as Lords of Dragonstone, with no grand ideas of conquest. In the fandom, there is a theory that says there is a myth that the reason the Lords of the Freehold did not take over Westeros may have to do with some rumor that gold from Casterly Rock would destroy the Freehold. This gold has been raised from the purchase of a Valyrian steel sword, and this, some say, gold is for the army of faceless men that killed off the keepers of the 14 flames. But no one ever mentions
At whose instruction? This theory has a huge gap. Who paid and who benefited? Let's say the Targaryens paid. But as I stated earlier, they took a massive loss after the Doom. Even if you admit they may have miscalculated and did not expect for their dragons to die on the island, if it takes having Valerian blood to control the dragons, and that was the case for the incest, they had to assume that at one point in the generations that they may come out with same-sex kids, meaning they may have a generation where they only have sons or they only have daughters. So this would naturally be an issue with the ability to maintain the purity of the blood of the dragon. And with House Celtigar and Valerian not being dragon riders, that would be a huge gamble. Also, if that was their plan, it was ill-planned on their part. They took no lineage of steelworkers, along with no significant deposits of the steel, so they could continue the practice of selling it to the lords of Westeros. They left any magic workers, leaving them in a new world with no magical powers to rule it once the home base was destroyed. No extensive understanding of dragon breeding or any of the precious metals. I am sure many of the other families had tons of gold or jewels. I am not sure that they went and retrieved any of that before the explosion. I mean, if you go into time the takeout of an entire nation, for the Targaryens to benefit from the Doom, they sure had very little to show for it, especially after having pulled off what I am imagining as a Godfather-style tactics of getting rid of the heads of the 5 families, or 39 other dragon-riding families, in this case. They did none of that. They left, sat quietly on Dragonstone, waited 12 years for the Doom, and then stayed looking to a fallen empire for over 100 years. So it doesn't make sense as a risk-reward proposition. No, there is one family that I think we need to focus more on. With this one move, a house could go from 0 to 100 real quick. So, again, let us ask ourselves, Qui bono, who benefited the most from the Doom? Please keep this saying in mind as I go through this garden. So, let's go back in time before the Doom of Valaria, when Daenerys the Dreamer had her dream. If you look at the page after that paragraph, it goes into who she told about her dream. It talks about her mother, who was informed of the dream, and gives some backstory to the mother. The text states that her mother, Alanna Targaryen, was from a prominent house that had fallen on hard times, and she wanted to reverse that decline. Now, let's keep that part in mind, because one must wonder what house she was from. In reading these words as laid out by George, it seems she is most likely not a sister wife to Lord Aenor. Could she have been from another random powerful Valerian dragon-riding family? Or could she have been from a family that may have had a dragon rider in it by marriage, maybe having had one within their recent past, but currently does not have a prominent one, and who was looking to regain their dragon-riding blood? The family of Lady Alanna Targaryen, whom the other dragon-riding family may have been married into, could have taken the first dragon from the freehold to Dragonstone and built up the island as we know it. Alanna Targaryen's family of origin may not have been a dragon-riding family naturally. Still, they could have married into dragon-riding families to get the dragon's blood within their lineage. This family may have had skills in other areas, like sailing, and may have taken to trade to elevate its status in the freehold. Alanna Targaryen's birth family may have consisted of bold sailors whose wealth came from trade with Westeros. Those same bold ones who looked at Driftmark and decided to settle it so it could serve as a trading outpost between the 2 continents. Her ancestors may have convinced a dragon lord or 2 to come to the volcanic island next to Driftmark to build up Dragonstone with their dragons. I think she may have been a member of House Valerian, by whatever name they had before the Doom, and her marriage to Aenor was her family's effort to marry back into a dragon-riding family. Though they were the lowest dragon-riding family, they were still of the dragon's blood, and becoming a dragon rider would now halt their family's downfall. I speculate they are from the house that became House Valerian and was sailors. They made their money off trade, using their ships, which helped carry the enslaved people to and from the freehold, making the family wealthy. Still, after the war with Guise and the roads were built, enslaved people could be transported over land rather than by sea, reducing the need for sailors to transport products, causing the family's decline. In this theory, the story goes that the folks from House Valaria moved to Westeros even before the Targaryens family took part of the first settlers of Driftmark, the largest and most inhabitable of the 3 islands in the Narrow Sea, and convinced the lords of the freehold to build on the Selfie, volcanic island. So when they want to come out and visit, they have a place that is suitable for the dragons to nest, but is close to them. The long-term goal is to form a dragon-riding family that will permanently establish itself on the island. Bringing the houses together would help provide the future House Valerian with the tools to satisfy their ambitious nature. If you think about it, they were the ones to gain the most from the Doom. After the conquest, they went from a lowly sailing house to being dragon riders and part of the royal family of Westeros. This may be why the story states that the Valerians came to Westeros before the Targaryens. The history books always emphasize this story, but what is never discussed is why, and what they did while they were here, before the dragon's blood. We know that the current-day House Valerian was never amongst any of the most powerful houses of Old Valaria. In the books, they are described as having all of the looks of Old Valaria, with hair and eye color similar to the Great Lords, just never the ability to ride the beast, like the other great families. But as previously mentioned, they do claim to have preceded the Targaryens to Westeros. This story must mean that they were sailors for some time. If you look at a map of Westeros, you can see the distance between the two places. The only way a non-dragon riding family could have discovered the island and settled on it would be to presume that they had always been sailors and did not become sailors as part of their moving to the island. For them to see the land, they had to be part of the trade that went on between Westeros and the freehold. That would be the only reason any family would leave the freehold to move to Driftmark. It would be for trade. If I am a sailor, or from a family that makes its money off of goods that are traded between the two worlds, this would make sense, as an outpost, that a family decided to make their permanent home away from home. The island next to the one with a volcano. The book Fire and Blood states that the island of Driftmark was given to the family by the Merlin King as a way to settle a pact. I will go into this side of the story in another video. Still, it seems that according to their family history, those islands were gifted to them. Then shortly after, the Merlin King gave them the islands. The Dragon Lords were convinced to come to the only island of the 3 with a volcano, to start to build up Dragonstone. Once the island was formed for a Dragon Lord by a Dragon Lord, no Dragon Lord settled on the island. Why is it that? Why did no one take hold of the island as a permanent home before the Targaryens? Wonder why that family still does not exist. Well, we will discuss this in part 2 of the video. The Valerians were the authentic orchestrators of the Doom of Valaria, and in my next video, I will explain exactly how it happened and the other families affected by this plan.